Hey, well, here we are in show number 11 of these 10-minute episodes of the life, of the adventures of the street pastor Julio, the guy who's speaking to you right now. That's me, Julio. Now, where were we? I was in that. I had just discovered that beautiful part of the Bible where Jesus said that it's what's inside your heart that counts, not so much what you put in your mouth, as you may recall. But anyway, something told me, to stop the 8 day. I had fasted for 8 days, only drinking water, and something. I felt the feeling of peace. It wasn't fear, it wasn't worry, it wasn't concern over myself. It was just a peace that told me, you've accomplished your goal here, now eat. So, being that I was on the beach there in Mazatlan, they had these little humble, like shacks where, local villagers would make food, It was a little, cheap restaurants on the beach there for the freaks. So I proceeded to eat. I had a plate of food there. What did I eat? Oh well, it was delicious fresh fish. Fresh fish. You know what I'm talking about? Back in the, I guess that was like the mid 70s, very early 70s. So you're talking about fresh fish pulled out of the ocean in the early 70s, man. There wasn't that much contamination back then. And also had fish, and there was a big plate, rice, and I remember it like if it was yesterday. And potatoes, fried potatoes, and also which they eat a lot in Mexico is avocado. Oh yeah, avocado with your lemon. So some raw onion there. So it was a delight. It was a meal delight. I hadn't eaten in eight days. I want to make a little parenthesis here, very important about my biblical research at that point, is that to me, and still to this day, the only version of the Bible that I really like is the King James Version. Just the regular King James Version. Some people have a little problem with it because of the fact that it was written in the early 1600s, and I guess it's a Shakespearean language, when English was at its purest form. So at first, it might be it's a little hard, or some people find it uncomfortable reading, and that's why they would rather read the newer, revised or more modern versions. But I've heard this before, and it's also my personal opinion, is that some of those versions are, I don't know, they lack that same punch, I'm not saying that they're watered down or whatnot, but they lack that artistic beauty, that poetic beauty of the King James Version, and that punch in the verses and the way they're worded. I just feel it takes away. Yeah, I would never read it. I only like to read the King James Version. And then after a while, you get over that hump. Yeah, you get over that hump, and you start to understand it perfectly, and it actually broadens your cultural of the English language, and your language appreciation and language knowledge of the original English language spoken in England. So, therefore, I just wanted to make that little sidetrack. Also, well, I broke my fast, and I ate, and I was feeling it was time to leave, but I was still there, getting high, smoking marijuana with the other hippies, and still continuing my biblical studies of the words of Jesus exclusively. I wasn't interested in the other parts of the Bible, so therefore I was continuing with that. And then, strangely, I met this guy, a Mexican guy, and that was also hanging out there. He would come around, and he had all this love and stuff. Like he would hug people, and he was very concerned about other people, and I seen the guy, and he had a lot of peace, he seemed to be, had this love and this happiness, naturally speaking, and he had a concern for other people. So I saw this spirit in him that called my attention. He had this peace that I felt I needed. Anyway, it's funny that he was there, and I noticed that. And also I started, like I was telling you before, I started getting better feelings about myself, about love, about, I was starting to feel better. So something inside of me, also like a good vibe, told me to, told me to go. It was Christmas time was arriving, so I hadn't seen my family, my folks, in a couple of years. I think it was 2 or 3 years I hadn't seen them, and something told me, maybe it's a good time to go make the peace. See, my mom, I think she had practically disinherited me because of my drug use and selling drugs and being a drug addict and everything. She kind of, I guess in her mind, I no longer existed. So I felt that this would be, and I was lost to all the rest of my siblings. I was a casualty according to them. So I thought this would be, wow, I got this feeling of goodness in me. Maybe it's a perfect timing for me to go and spend Christmas with them. I was feeling this goodness inside of me. So it's, I had also seen in that guy back at the camp in the beach. Oh yeah, his name was Jeremiah. Anyway, I left. I said, okay, I'm going. My family by then, they had all left New York and had immigrated to Florida, to South Florida, to Miami. I had never been to Miami before. So, I said goodbye to everybody, said my farewells, and left with a better peace about life, a peace about myself, and a decision that I was no longer going to commit suicide, and maybe there was something to live for. So I felt this goodness, and I said, well, let me start by spending Christmas with my family, which I hadn't seen them in a couple of years. So I made it, I left Mexico, headed north, I guess I went through the border there in Arizona, and, followed my path, Highway 10, Interstate 10, on the way in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, made it to Texas. And in Texas, I had a rather interesting experience. Was that I was going through Dallas, it was very late at night, like but before that, I was at a park in Dallas, a Lee Park, and I got there and I was hoping maybe to get a little bit of drugs or some marijuana or something, and I didn't find any. And what happened was that these people, Christian people, approached me and they started talking to me about Jesus and everything. And it was a girl, and she was very sympathetic to me, which was odd for Christians. And she said, that I used to smoke marijuana also, but then I received Jesus, and then after that, the desire for smoking marijuana kind of left me. That's what she said. So I thought that was interesting because never ever a Christian told me that in that way. Usually they were very negative and condemning about people smoking marijuana. But she just said that she continued smoking, she said, after she received Jesus in her heart, but that little by little she stopped. I thought that was kind of funny. I never heard a Christian express it in that way, but it left a good feeling in me. And she left me her phone number of this group. She belonged to some Christian commune group. So, all right, I saved it in my wallet. And actually, I was trying to find a place to sleep that night, but she said that the commune had rules and they didn't allow, strangers to sleep there. So I continued my journey that night. And I hooked up with this other guy, and we were going through Dallas at 2 in the morning, crossing this dangerous, it was kind of a bad side of town or something, and it looked and everything was very dark. And all of a sudden, a car, it was full of these guys. They were African American, black guys. There was like 5 or 6 of them, and they pulled over in their vehicle, and they called us over to give us a ride. They were making the motions like they wanted to give us a ride, but actually the car looked kind of cramped. It looked kind of full already, and we were wondering how we were going to get inside a car. It was full of guys, and then because we hesitated a bit, they came running out with steel pipes. They all had steel pipes in their hands, and they ran out of their car, and they ran toward us. And I tried to say something, I told them, hey, brothers. I said, I'm Puerto Rican. hoping that maybe because we're both minorities, they were African American and I was Puerto Rican, maybe they were going to stop. But they kept running toward us. And I turned around and my friend, and we ran and ran. And stay tuned for the next show, and you'll find out what happens to Julio, the adventures of the street pastor, being chased for his life.